Hi folks, this is Jim Hurst, and you probably know that because you clicked on my website and found this link. I've had people ask me about rhythm patterns, and the thing about bluegrass rhythm is that it's based on basically one particular pattern in my mind. This is one man's opinion. This is just something to get you started in the bluegrass rhythm. I actually think there's 5 different patterns and variations of those 5 patterns. There's boom chuck, boom chuck boom chucka, and articulated boom chucka, which is basically my version, my title of a pattern that is based on the boom chucka. But it basically all starts with down and up strokes. So if you think about what in Nashville is known as the paintbrush, it's down, up, all 6 strings. So if I'm playing, or no, anything like that is, so that's kind of the idea of, to me, the rhythm strokes for bluegrass rhythm guitar. With that said, I think for me anyway, the bluegrass basic rhythm is boom chuck. And the boom chuck or boom chick or however way you want to say it really talks about the boom of the bass and the chop of the mandolin. Or in the case of a drummer, it would be the kick drum and the snare brush. Kick drum, snare brush. Right? And so it's all, how you approach it for yourself. I look at the boom chuck as like the basic pattern for bluegrass guitar rhythm. Now I've had people ask me, at least one person asked me not to play boom chuck, but the thing about it is I think that it's a good standard kind of rhythm thing to do. It's basically, so no matter what song you're doing, that works. Now is it the premier rhythm pattern? It depends on the player, depends on the song, depends on the tempo. There's a lot of things that go into this. But this boom chuck, it's basically you're playing the root note on the bass with followed by at least 3, if not 4 strings on the downstroke. So that's what's known as a boom chuck. Now we'll go farther to say that the boom chuck also mimics the bass line. So it's boom, boom, boom. So root 5. Now that's basically what the bass player would do possibly, but we're not trying to play the bass line, we're just playing along with everybody. So in the bluegrass world, in my opinion, the bass, the mandolin, and the guitar, bass, and mandolin are the ones that kind of set the tempo for everybody and kind of gives them anchors to play with. But the banjo player, the fiddle player, the dobro player, the vocalist, all that has to play in time. But if you have a guitar player playing in time and you got a mandolin player chopping in time, you got a bass player thumping in time, the rest of it pretty much is like, you have the basic makeup of what the rhythm pattern would be. So let's go further with this. So the boom chuck would be then, the bass line would be the root and the 5. And depending on the chord you do, so that's G, here's C. And here's D. Back to G. So in my mind, I'm playing the root first and the 5, which is in the key of G. The root would be G, the 5 would be D, obviously. In the key of C, it would be C and G, which the root is C, the 5 is G. In D, the root is D, and the 5 is A. But now you can do other things, but what I caution folks to do is to play along with your bass player, whoever the bass player is. If you're playing by yourself, you can do anything you want to. Whatever you want to do. So There's all kinds of patterns. So we'll leave the bass lines out for you to discover on your own at this point. This is a free video, so I'm going to run through this kind of quickly. You can go over it and over it. Okay? I'm already like 5 minutes into this thing. So the next pattern from the boom chuck would be boom chuck. What the sound designates an upstroke, right? So it's a boom chuck. So down, up, down, or boom up chuck. So I'm going up and down, and going down and up with my hand. You notice I'm not changing any direction. I'm not hitting 2 down or 2 up in this case, right? So I'm going down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. As opposed to, there's the boom chuck, here's the boom chuck. Now what you'll notice is that there's a second up chuck missing. So it goes, and there's a quarter note rest. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Get it? Okay, so that's the boom chuck. So boom chuck, boom chuck. Now I find that the boom chuck doesn't work too well in most things. It works like see them tumbling down. It kind of has that low that you might hear on a cowboy song or something. The next, so that's boom chuck, boom chucka. Boom chuck. The next one is boom chuck. So it means you're going to play boom chucka boom. So the rest is in between the boom and the first chucking. So that's boom chucka. So let me go through those again. Boom chuck, boom chuck, boom chucka boom. Okay. So boom chuck, boom chuck, boom chucka. The next one, which obviously falls in line, is boom chucka. So that's a 4-beat pattern. Boom chucka, boom chucka. So I'm going up and down and up on my trebles. So I'm hitting the bass line down. Then my next stroke is an up, down, up. Boom. And I'm playing the root 5th, the G and the D. G, D, G. All right, so that's a boom chucka. The one that I tend to use a lot of, more often than anything, is what I call the articulated boom chucka. Now, if you listen to the greatest guitar players on the planet, they use a mixture of all this stuff. If you listen to Doc Watson's playing, you listen to Clarence White's playing, you listen to Tony Rice, you listen to Norman Blake, you listen to Dan Crary, you listen to all of them. Postmodern, Brian Sutton's, the Tim Staffords, the David Greers, they all have different versions of all this stuff. So this one here, I don't know what they call it. I haven't even asked them. But Steve Kaufman has a bunch of, he has the Kaufman Camp over in Maryville, Tennessee. There are other music camps that have similar things, but Steve being in flat picking, wonder, and he does more than flat picking, but he's got a good camp over in Maryville, Tennessee called Kaufman Camp. He's got all kinds of booklets on this. This is just my video presentation to you that don't necessarily live in the States or don't get a chance to go or not necessarily read tablature. So I don't read tablature, this is a video thing. So the articulated boom chuck is going down on the 6, up on the 5, chucka. Down, up, chucka. Down, up. So instead of going, which is all strokes except for the boom, I'm going boom, boom, chucka, boom, boom, chucka, boom, boom, chucka. So in this case, I'm hitting G and D, and then D and G. And you can hit the same string if you want. So the key is being able to play that with somewhat consistency and not making too many mistakes. You heard me make some mistakes, but I try not to, especially in live music. The other key is to try to get these patterns learned and absorbed into your playing, digested, if you will, so that you can use them whenever you feel it needs to be used. Nobody's, at least as far as I know, I don't know of any guitar players that's going to play one of those patterns throughout the whole song. You'll use some of them for the simple part of the song. You use other parts for another, a more complex part of the song. During the banjo solo, you may use a different part of the song. During a vocal, you may use a different pattern for that part of the song. It's all depending upon your taste. So learning these patterns is going to help you. So let me give you a little demonstration of what it might sound like. Down the road here from me, there's an old holler tree where you lay down $1 or two. That's boom chuck, right? So I'm going to do the second half in a boom chuck. Then you drive around the bend, and when you come back again, there's a jug full of that good old Mountain Dew. Boom chugga, boom chugga, boom chugga, boom chugga, boom. All right. Now I'm going to do articulated boom chugga. Well, they call it that good old Mountain Dew, and then that refusing our view. Back to the boom chug. Then chug up my mud if you fill up my jug. That's boom chugga. Then the articulated. It's just a mixture of those patterns. The other thing to do then is dynamically shift between just an idle, not real loud, not real forceful. And then between lines, you might do what I call the bluegrass swell, which back in the old days meant the folks that were standing around one mic, when Lester got done singing, then all the guys would swell in and fill that little void with a little more music, or play it a little harder. Maybe in the case of Lester, he might lean back and play his guitar a little louder. But it's all of this dance. It's supposed to sound like music. It ain't supposed to sound like marching things like this right here. It's supposed to go wingy chicka tucka chicka doo chicka doo. So if I'm playing something fast, boom chuck is my buddy. Riding the night in the high cold wind on trail of your walls of pine. As soon as I start adding things, it starts getting complicated, and it's harder to play it, unless you're a real fast player. A lot of folks that played with Ricky Skaggs over the years have been real fast players, and they can play real fast, and they can do all the stuff I'm talking about at 3 times the speed. And that's nice if you can do that, and they do it really well, and I really love hearing that. But I don't tend to want to do that. Mine's more middle of the road kind of tempo, and if I'm doing fast, it's mostly boom chuck. And if I'm going to do anything else, it may be almost like a roll on the trebles. I'm not going to hit the bass strings. That's chicka 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 chicka. Down up, down up, down up, down up, real fast. And that's an articulated boom-a-chugga if I'm using the bass line. Otherwise, it's like the articulated boom-a-chugga, but it's only on the trebles. Right? So that's the 5 patterns to me. And again, it has something to do with this kind of pattern for me. Folk music and some country music and some blues songs and whatever have this. Right? It's got that. She's in love with the boy. Right? So it's got that kind of feel. But this is bluegrass. It's not blues. It's not rock. It's not country. So as you play bluegrass, it needs to feel good with everybody else you're playing with. So if you're playing with a mandolin player, in my opinion, that is real pretty chop heavy, you may want to stay away from just only boom chuck for the most part. Maybe play more articulated or something else along the lines of not necessarily hitting. Depends on the mandolin player. If it's a fast song, sometimes the boom chuck is what gives everything a chance to push against. If everybody's doing lots of 16, 30-second notes and they're blowing through the thing really fast, especially banjo rolls and things like that, boom chuck sometimes is exactly what everything needs. So it's a balance to me. Anyway, I'm at 15 minutes. This is your free lesson. Have a good one.